Hello and welcome to another episode of the Beatport podcast with me, High Class Filter. On today's show, I'll be chatting to critical music founder Kasra and getting the lowdown on his debut solo EP. In the 16 years that he's been running Critical, Kasra has built up a unique brand and family of artists within the drum and bass scene. But it's only in 2018 that he's taken the plunge into releasing his own solo work with the Ski Mask EP. I caught up with Kasra at his London studio to talk about the EP, his approach to running a label, and adapting to a changing music industry landscape. Later on in the show, I'll be playing some of my favourite drum and bass releases from the past few weeks, including tracks from Enei, Paradox and Skeptical. Before we get into my chat with Kasra, I'm starting you off with the title track from his new EP. This one's called Ski Mask.
Beatport podcast.
To all you motherfuckers out there, don't fake the funk and it's not right to steal soul. It's not right. It's not right. It's not right. We just want to say to all you motherfuckers out there, don't fake the funk and it's not right to steal soul.
So right now you're listening to the Beatport podcast with me, High Class Filter, and I'm joined by Kasra. How's it going?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thanks. Thanks for joining us. So what's been happening in the world of Kasra, the world of Critical?
So I've had a pretty full-on year. I got married a few weeks ago, which was amazing.
Congratulations!
Thank you very much. Took up a lot of energy and bandwidth, but it was an amazing experience. So I've been kind of focused on that for a few weeks, leaning into it, and then afterwards took a well-earned rest. But yeah, it's been a really good year. Put out a lot of great music, done a lot of great shows, and put out my first solo EP, which is a bit of an achievement for me. After 16 years of running a label, finally thought it was time to put out a record of my own. So yeah, it's been an eventful year. Things have been moving forward.
So the Ski Mask EP is your first solo EP on the label. Mm-hmm. I guess to put it simply, why now? Why have you started releasing your own music now?
I felt like, in terms of where I am in what I do, I feel like the label is in a really good place. We've got established artists who are still doing really exciting things. We've got new artists who are doing exciting things. We've got the kind of events all set up. We have a really great team of people around us, and it's taken me a long time to work out some of those things and work closely with the artists and build them up and get them on their way. And then I found myself in a space where I wanted to do a lot more creative things, because I found myself doing a lot of label administration things. I have a team of people who work on the label. My label manager Adam and two other guys who work with us, and they do so much of the work. Particularly Adam is the engine room of the label. But I was doing a lot of emails and a lot of things that weren't necessarily as fulfilling as I'd like to be. So, like I say, the label was up and running and it had its own steam. So I was like, I want to dedicate the next couple of years to do more creative projects. So, somewhat inspired off the back of the Circuits project that I do with Paul Inside Info, which we launched earlier this year in April, I put more and more energy into just writing ideas of my own. I've always written ideas, I've always collaborated with people, but I really felt like it was important for me to do some music of my own. Just to prove it to myself, and just to put out a record on my own label. It felt weird after 16 years of running a label, especially someone who likes creating and likes making music, that I should just experience it for myself as well. Like, actually, a lot of the things that I talk to about artists, about their concerns about music, about putting it out there into the public domain, I'd only done that mainly in collaborative projects, so there's always someone else to kind of fall back on if it doesn't work for whatever reason. So it was a kind of combination of things, of like a desire within me to be like, right, I just want to do this, to like tick a box for me personally as like an achievement thing, to put it out there and experience what it's like to put your own music out.
Yeah. So on the producer side of things, have you always been producing but just not put the music out, or have you only just been learning recently?
I remember years ago, even when I started the label, I had Cubase and stuff, and I always found it incredibly confusing, I suppose. And then I'd sort of play around with it more and more, and then I'd hate everything that I did, which is obviously a problem that most producers have. I don't really know any producers who feel like they write bangers every time they sit down in the studio.
Yeah, definitely.
I would always have like Ableton or Logic or whatever on my laptop, and when I'd be travelling around, just try out ideas, some of which I've gone back to and discovered really old projects. The tune Transmitter that me and Eno did with Jakes, the music to that was a tune I started in 2010, and I found the old project on an old hard drive and I was like, actually, this is good, let's knock it into shape and then get a vocal on it. So there's things like that, but I've always had the label kind of taking up the majority of my time, and that had such a momentum behind it that I would struggle to find studio time. So that's why most things were collaborations, because I'd just be like, you know what, I've got a couple of days, but I'm never going to be able to finish anything on my own in a couple of days. But I've got these samples, I've got this idea. So I do something with Eni or Mephius or, a foreign concept, or there's loads of people I've collaborated with. So yeah, I'd always been doing something, and always, reading about it, trying to understand it a bit more, because obviously when you're talking to artists, you need to have an understanding of what you're trying to explain to them in terms of, from an A&R perspective. So I feel like I have an understanding, but the practical implication mainly boils down to time. I find treating writing music like the model that bands have when they go into a studio, of like, right, we've got a week in the studio, we've got to get a record down. I quite like that. Yeah,
I think as a producer, it's quite tempting to put things away, as you say, and then come back to it almost forever.
Yeah, of course, and that's, like I said, there's an idea from 2010 or 2011 that became a track that we put out only last year, where you could just sit there and actually like try and do 3 or 4 things in a week, rather than be like, all right, cool drum track, now I've got an idea for something else, and then just kind of having loads of bits on your laptop. Because nothing's as exciting as the latest idea you're working on. Yeah, it's something I've always done to varying degrees of success. But I always try and do, if I collaborate with someone, I always try and bring, even if it's a really rough sketch, just because so many of the artists that, particularly on the label, have such a distinctive style and such strong production skills that if you go in with nothing, it just ends up sounding like you're just in the room making the tea.
Yeah, I think it's interesting what you say about having that kind of band studio approach to your music, because I was reading that before drum and bass, your musical background was kind of punk and hardcore.
Yeah, well, that's my preference in music. A lot of that kind of thing, a lot of underground, particularly American guitar music. I worked for independent record labels. I worked for the Rough Trade record label, which isn't a punk or hardcore label. It's just an independent record label.
So you try and carry through that ethos and kind of spirit of indie bands into what you're doing with Critical?
Well, I just think it's the independent record label, independent artist, not necessarily a model, because there's no formal function to it. Sometimes it's just an ideology of just like, if it's good, we'll put it out kind of thing. You believe in the music you put out, you do it not for commercial reasons, you do it because if it's something you genuinely care about and want to do, and you hope people like it, and you want to be successful, but the end game is to maybe do something a bit different to what other people do. And also the nature of it is just like, you make I've said this quite a lot of times, but the kind of original like punk, hardcore, underground spirit of like guitar music in the late 80s, early 90s, or even in the 70s was just like, make a racket in the garage, put it on a 7-inch, get it out there, and if someone likes it, great. If they don't, well, you've got something out there, you've like made an artifact that kind of represents where you are, or your band is at that point.
Yeah.
And then there's a similar ideology with like a lot of the early hardcore drum and bass and, you know, underground house and techno. All those things were just like, you made a record on a computer, pressed it up, put it out there.
I think it's always been quite upfront that the A&R approach to Critical is more or less your taste, isn't it? What you kind of find interesting. And I think that results in very different sounds being put out through the label. So how do you have that approach, but then at the same time have something that someone might recognise as being, this fits with Critical?
I don't really know. If you think of some of the music we put out, even the past 6 months, you know, put out an Emperor EP and then a Sam Bigger record, which is basically a reggae record, and then I had a Genix EP, which has got rolling drum and bass on one disc, and then like half-time kind of hip-hop stuff. It's just, I don't really know is the answer, because you can equate what Conor Emperor does with Sam Binger. They're very, very different. But again, I just put out music that I like and I believe in, with people I like and believe in. It's important to work with people who share a similar vision and really feel like you want to help achieve that, I think. Yeah. There's got to be a personal element to how you run a label. The common thread is that I like it, but if people feel like when they listen to stuff that there is an underlying sound, then that's great, because that's good that comes across. But I don't really do that. I don't go, you know what, put it in F, because then it will sound like a Critical tune. If it isn't for the label, it just isn't for the label. Like the A&R process is always like, is this your best music? Do you need any help with this? Do you know, like obviously having a second pair of ears and guiding people, but it's also like you find people whose music you like, and then you're like, right, just write music. Because it's not about making them into something they're not. It's a support thing as much as anything sometimes.
Yeah, so you've been running Critical for over 15 years now. Mm-hmm. It's a massive achievement. At what point did it become clear to you that like this is more than a hobby, this is something that's, you know, you could do it full time and kind of make a living off it, and also help other artists make a living off it too? Well,
it's an interesting point that you make there, because the first sort of 7-8 years were very much like a hobby. I was doing quite intense jobs. I was working in music management, I worked at record labels, and I decided that in one particular job I was doing, I kind of burnt out quite a bit, and I'd saved up some money, and I was like, okay, well, I think I can put that to one side for now and put some energy into the label. And that was probably about 8 years ago, something like that. I just was like, right, I'm going to just focus totally on the label. Because I was doing like two things, not quite as good as if I was just doing one thing, really. But obviously there was extra pressure that comes with that. I didn't want to sacrifice what kind of music we were putting out just to pay the rent. Because I always say to artists, especially when they're starting out, like, don't give up your job until you reach a point where something has to give. You know, like you're getting enough DJ bookings that you can pay the rent and you can live, but you keep taking time off work, and it's all kind of getting too much, and you're like, you can see 6 months ahead that you've got enough work. Don't give up a job because you put pressure on yourself, and then you start making bad creative decisions because you're like, I have to make a banger because otherwise I can't get gigs and all this kind of thing. The same way with me, the label was like, I'd saved some money from having a job, but I also knew that I had to do everything properly. So it's like, if I want to build this, I'd already taken the model of running a record label properly was the main thing to do. So it's like down to the basic things of like registering everything properly, making sure you pay your taxes, making sure you pay your artists, making sure you keep proper accounts, making sure that you treat it like a business. You know, you're not always like paying for records from an artist's royalties, or or like you could build a business. It's just the same, it's basic principles, but a lot of the time, people who run record labels, you see it all the time, would just not adhere to those kind of principles, and then it would all fall apart because you just run out of money or you can't pay people or whatever. So I got to a point where it was like, right, I gave up working and then just put all my energy into the label, my DJ career, and that was where the label really started to feel like it was coming together, because it was like, this is what I'm doing now, this is my job at full time. And also because we started to, there's a different energy you have as well when it's like you can be focused on this. You can go and, when you're working full time, it's very hard to go and meet artists and sit down face to face with them or spend time in the studio with them, all those kind of things. This was a lot harder to find music because you just don't have the time.
Yeah.
So I could just dedicate more time to doing the things that were important.
So there's much of a change in your approach to the label.
I think so. It's like anything. I feel like you get out what you put in, right? So if you're doing something at 50%, you only get 50% back.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like, right, I think I can do this. The label's already in a nice place. We've got good music. People want to work with us. Let's see if I can build something with this. I also found that once people knew I was doing it full time, they just take you a bit more seriously.
So has that made it easier as well to build Critical, not just as a label, but as an entire brand, if you like, with the events?
Yeah, because you have more space to do all the other things. If you're trying to sign good music and work with artists, and then you need to do events, and you need to do merchandise lines, you need to plan tours and all this kind of thing. You only have time to do one of those things properly, and it's like probably you'd like to think it'd be the music, and then to do all of them properly, you need to dedicate a lot of time to it, and then also have people to help you.
Yeah.
So you just grow.
we were talking a little bit before we started recording about changing trends in the way people consume music. Do you find that something that takes up more and more of your time, is keeping up with, you know, whether it's the switch to streaming more than physical, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's something I'm actually spending quite a bit of time on at the moment, is looking at how we do things. So again, you know, this has been a bit of a thing, but you know, like having a team now means that I can step back and look at the bigger picture stuff we're doing and be like, well, is putting music out on vinyl the way to run a record label in 2018? Doesn't really feel like it anymore, because we have quite a lot of artists that we work with, and no one's buying a yacht off royalties. It's like the money just isn't there. For underground drum and bass, it's just not. And most people make their money from DJing. To build up a DJ profile, you need to put out music. If you're going to do every release you do on vinyl, with a schedule like ours, with the amount of artists we have, you're looking at maybe 2 releases a year max, which, unless everything you do is an anthem, is you can't build a career off the back of that. So with the more established acts, you could be a bit more flexible. I think with the newer acts, it's definitely looking at doing less physical products, getting them on their way, building them up. And also just, there's generally a decline in interest in the physical form. I think merchandise side of things has never been better, so people want to spend the money, but they just don't necessarily want to buy a record. So I'll always press a record if an artist really wants one, because I still love records. But yeah, I'm looking at how we do things and just doing things differently. I think one of the great things about being an independent record label is that you should be agile, because you don't have red tape. You literally can be like, you know what, let's put it out tomorrow and just get it out. You know, you don't have to answer to anyone. So putting restrictions on yourself by the restrictions that physical products can put in place is somewhat contradictory about the nature of maybe what I think we stand for a little bit. And also in line with that, as the artists get younger that we work with, they have a different feeling about how their music comes out as well. Some guys who are young will be like, I just want one record out, and then the rest can be digital, just because they want to have something. Maybe they can show their mum, I don't know, to show that all those times spent up in their bedrooms making a racket was worth it. Or they're just like, yeah, I don't care, just put it out, you know, because they just want music out, post it on Instagram and get gigs, you know. So, you know, the older generation were always like, I want it on vinyl, I want to go down to the mastering, I want to, you know, all this kind of thing. And there's, you know, so people do care, all our artists care about how the music comes about, but just things change. And also the nature of the way we are, if you make a record, if you finish a record today and I go, right, it's great, let's put it out, and they're like, I want to do vinyl, and you're like, right, it's going to be 5 months till it comes out. It just seems so long. And I think that, especially the way that I find drum and bass producers are, is that they will always be pushing themselves technically. So they'll be like, right, I did that with this EP, what do I do with the next one? And to sit on something for 5 months, by the time their EP comes out, you'll be like, I don't make music that sounds like that anymore. Or, you know, oh, that mix sounds terrible, I can do much better now. So I think if you're doing something the same way for 16 years and it works like it does for us, there's something to be said for that. But there's also like, well, it doesn't mean you're doing it the best way.
So obviously over the last 16 years, you have seen trends come and go within the drum and bass scene, and adapted with that and embraced the ups and downs. So what would you say have been your highlights of those 16 years in terms of musical trends that have come and gone, and also where do you see things going from here?
I think I've been really proud of a lot of the albums we've done, a lot of the artist albums we've done, and just a lot of the artists we've really built careers with. You know, people like E&I, Emperor, Mephius, the Ivy Lab Boys, and just the way that you can start working with someone when they're just beginning and then see them be in a place where they're like off doing loads of shows, very successful at what they do, very talented. It's there's like a good energy around that, I think. In terms of the musical stuff, I try not to think about that too much, because I feel like you can end up trying to second guess things, or try not to stand still. Be like, if an artist gives you an EP and it's basically more of the same something they've done already, be like, well, is this really what you want to say? Something you've already said? It's about pushing them, which in turn pushes the label on as well. I can't really pick out any particular time or anything. I feel like the past few years has been really exciting, particularly because of the artists I mentioned and the things we've done with them and the group of artists that we now work with. And the reaching the 15 years was a really big deal, and the big shows we did around the 15 years. And the fact that we, in my opinion, don't put out commercial drum and bass music but end up playing some really big stages and doing some really exciting shows. That's something I'm very proud of, because I feel like, you know, it's important to me that we don't sell out. And selling out to me is putting out music you don't believe in for the sake of commercial gain, and I don't want to ever do that. Every record I've released I love, and I love the people who've made them. I think that's important to kind of hold on to. I don't want to ever be like, oh, we put a vocal on that because we hoped it would get on Radio 1. Never done that, never will. And some people might say that holds you back from success, but I gauge success in different ways.
Yeah.
You know? So, somewhat deep end to the chat there, but yeah.
Well, great. Thanks for talking to us. The Ski Mask EP out now.
Yeah, it's out now. Thanks for having me. Thanks for the support.
Massive shout out to Kasra for chatting to us. Go grab his Ski Mask EP, which is out now on Critical Music. For the rest of the show, I'll be running through a selection of tracks I've been playing in my sets recently. Starting you off with this one from Benny L, taken from his Summoned EP on Metalheads. This track's called Trick or Treat.
Beatport Podcast.
Proud of your shape, proud of your size, proud of your looks and you're proud of your style. Proud of your body, your bumper and thighs. You're proud of your complexion, so kill him with a smile. Proud of your shape, proud of your size, proud of your looks and you're proud of your style. Proud of your body, your bumper and thighs. You're proud of your complexion, so kill him with a smile.
One bless, yeah. Proud of me body. No need no gym now, follow everybody. Me body firm, no, it no flabby flabby. Shape like me mother and me favor me daddy. Me have the natural body when no need service. Any boy ya come, me must deserve this. Set him reservation, reserve this. Serve me pan a plate, I get deserve this.
You're proud of your shape, proud of your size, proud of your looks and you're proud of your style. Proud of your body, your bumper and thighs. You're proud of your complexion, so kill him with a smile. Proud of your shape, proud of your size, proud of your looks and you're proud of your style. Proud of your body, your bumper and thighs. You're proud of your complexion, so kill him with a smile. You're proud of your
no girl can't win me down, no with no open and no aisle. Once more me down, come me, ya kill them with the style. Can't lick me chip cause it no come with no file. Good girl love be proud, tell them all the while. Fat get heavy weighted, good brains, well educated. Bumper high, well elevated. Skin clean, never tainted. To every girl this dedicated from you.
Proud of your shape, proud of your size, proud of your looks and you're proud of your style. Proud of your body, your bumper and thighs. You're proud of your complexion, so kill him with a smile. Proud of your shape, proud of your size, proud of your looks and you're proud of your style. Proud of your body, your bumper and thighs. You're proud of your complexion, so kill him with a smile.
The track you just heard was without a doubt one of the biggest drum and bass tracks of the summer and comes courtesy of Enai on the remix of Sam Binga and Ryder Shafiq's Proud, featuring Tiffany Malvo on vocals. Heading into another wicked vocal track now. This next one is Skeptical's remix of Zed Bias featuring Buddha, Pick Up the Pieces.
Some things that we do not mean, and we will disagree on some things.
The track on the way in now is Paradox's new remix of Gremlins, Frankie Guns. The original track was released back in 2009 on Gremlins' Deadpan EP, and now Paradox has put his own spin on the track with this huge remix. That brings us to the end of today's podcast, and I'm leaving you with a blissed out bit of liquid drum and bass from Polar and Bryson entitled Floodgates. Another big shout out to Kasra for chatting to us for today's podcast. His Ski Mask EP is out now on Critical Music. I've been your host, High Class Filter. I'll be back soon with another podcast and another very special guest. Catch you next time.
Beatport Podcast.
you.